Before joining ourselves, Aleksandra actually worked for several years in communications and digital marketing and copywriting. And here at RC, as most of you are well aware, she's responsible for planning, implementing, and tracking jungle schools, and as well as organizing major events like Reason Fest and NICON.
So, with a huge round of applause, please welcome our wonderful,
our amazing
Aleksandra Jelesijevic.
I mean, what do I say after this? Well, oh, hi. Sorry, I just saw my future self out there, and she looked amazing, you know. She looks in love. She has a little dog named Vincent. She seems like a person that, you know, pulls out and does a lot of hard work, and you can see that she's committed to her values. And I can go on and how this person looks like and what she does, but we all know that I can't actually see my future self out there. But what if you could? What if you can see your future self out there? You can see what you achieved, you can see what you've done, you can actually see all the amazing things that you want to do and that you're dreaming about. But imagine that you can see that, but you can't actually see how that person got there. What values did that person hold? How did that person act? How did that person live? What job did she have? Would you like the picture? Would you like the person that you see? Or would you be sad about what you see? You know, we might not be able to see our future self out there, and we can just envision it in our head, but that is a really good vision that we can have. We can see us out there, we can envision, oh, I'm going to become this, and I'm going to become that, and I'm going to look just like that. But that's not enough. And the talk of my presentation, as you all saw, was Meet Your Future Self. But as you can see on the slide, that is not really the name of my presentation. I could have put Imagine, Meet, and in social media, you also see manifest, right? Which is, of course, a totally mystical thing that exists out there. And that is like, oh, I will tell the universe what is out there, and the universe will suddenly grant me a wish and like say, yeah, that's going to happen. Well, it's not, unfortunately. But what is fortune to all of us is that we have the ability to get there. But as I said, the name of the talk is not this. And, well, you'll figure out the name in the near future, I guess. So, okay, this is not turning out as I planned. This is not quite such a pretty building, I have to say, but it is the building of my former university. Marco have mentioned that I have studied journalism in the University of Belgrade, political sciences. This is my building, and the point is that I put this picture out here, not because, as I said, it looks pretty, but rather because this is where it all started kind of for me, because I joined university, it was October 2019, I was just like a passionate little girl that was like, didn't know where to go, didn't know where's the entry, although I did live next to the university, but I just went in there and started studying, and in 2 weeks after that, I managed to go to my first jungle school, 2019, and that was 5 years ago now, and I feel a bit old. But yes, so what happened here was that I wanted to study journalism really much. And as you can see now, as they can read my bio, I don't do journalism right now, but I still implement a lot of things that I learned from there to my life. And one of the things that you learn during journalism and during the first year, and even if you're not really studying journalism, you can also maybe hear about this, is the main 5 questions plus 1. So those are the questions that you might hear, even, as I said, you're not studying, and those are the questions that give us a story. So these are the questions, as I mentioned. So that is who, what, where, when, why, and how. And this is not sliding well. Well, what about these few questions? Why are they important? When you're writing a journalist article, you're usually writing about the past. So you're writing about a situation that has happened. And in the first paragraph, you want to summarize everything. You want to summarize like the most important bits. So the person that reads the article can actually, figure out why they're reading the article and for what reason. One of those questions is who, and we're going to go through all these questions today, and we're going to build our story, specifically your story. So I know that all of you have your tote bags, most of you, and like your pens and notebooks. So I would love for you to take one and write something, write what I will say, and also write and build your story. But I'm not going to ask you to read that anything out loud because this is all of your personal story. So it's yours and yours only, and you should build up on that, not me. And I want you to just have that as a little start, a little head start, as I would say. So who? Well, who is the question, right? Like, why am I talking this? Who am I talking to, right? I'm talking to all of you, that's true. I'm standing right here, right now, and I'm doing this talk. But for what purpose? Well, the purpose is that all of you are in this room, all of you are, every single individual here has its own life and has its own purpose. We're going to touch upon that. But all of you are important. Like, there is not a single one person in this room that is not important. But who are you the most important to? Well, to yourself. And we're going to see why. And you already studied objectivist ethics. You already went through it in the jungle school. So I know that you know already about it. But we're going to see how that can help your future. And we're going to see in what ways and what you can do. But the most important question is who, because you're not doing this for your neighbor, or you're not doing this for your friend. You're not sitting here because somebody begged you to sit here. I mean, if you are, we can talk about it later. But you're doing this for yourself. Nobody's going to do it for you, and here you are. So I want to ask, why are you here? And just to clarify this, a journalist, as is mentioned, there are 5 questions plus 1. What does that mean? So that means that I'm going to present these 5 questions plus 1, but I'm also going to ask sub-questions. Why? Because sometimes you can't really figure out the real answer to the question until you ask more questions. So sometimes it can happen that I will ask why and who and so on, but don't get confused. We're just going to figure out what we're talking about exactly. So I want to ask a few of you, why are you here? So, anybody raises a hand, Anastasia will give you a microphone. But I can also see people and ask, for example, Harrison, come on.
I'm here to hear talks about objectivism, to learn more about it, and I'm also here as part of my work, and some books.
Okay, Marco?
I'm here because I also love objectivism, and I take immense pleasure in organizing this conference and seeing all these great faces who are thriving for mission.
Okay, so we hear 2 answers. So we heard an answer that says, hey, I'm here for work, I'm here because I love objectivism. Marco also loves objectivism, I hope all of you do. But we also heard that Marco is organizing it here. So they both have different reasons for coming here. One that is mutual, that is I love objectivism, but also he's coming here for work. So he may benefit for some connections, for some other things that his work includes. But Marco, for example, is organizing the conference. So they have different reasons and different things that they value for the reason for coming here. If I ask another one of you, somebody would say, oh, I'm here because I love objectivism, but I want to network. A speaker would say, I'm here because I came here to speak and I came here to give people this knowledge and share that with them. And we all have like different purposes, and we're going to talk about that. But for here, what's now important is to say that it doesn't matter if you two, for example, sitting in the first row, don't have the same reason. What matters is that you know your reason and you know your why as well. So now we're going to come to the next question. But before that, I'm going to show you a little question, sorry, not question, but a little quote that I really love. So it's from Atlas Shrugged, and it says, "Do not let your fire go out. Spark by irreplaceable spark in the hopeless swamps of the not quite, the not yet, and the not at all. Do not let the hero in your soul perish in lonely frustration for the life you deserved and have never been able to reach. The world you desire can be won. It exists, it is real, it is possible, it is yours. It is yours." So, what? That is the next question that we ask. And before I do that, if you want to build the story with me, you can take your notes and write just like a few little sentences that will just say who you are right now. So, for example, I am Aleksandra and I work here, and I am, I define myself like this. I'm defined by also the things I do. So for example, I work, I organize a conference. If you want, write those things down. If not, I will definitely send you a presentation after so you can build upon that after the conference. But we go to what? So it's a really open question. So like what? Like what am I talking about? Well, I'm going to show you that through this guy. And I don't know how many of you know who this guy is. Do you know? Yay, great. So this is Hugh Laurie. And this guy actually plays a really important role, the main role actually in the TV show called House MD. So if somebody of you watched it, great, I'm really happy about that. I used to grow up and watch this TV show. Luke, I don't know if Luke is here, but he asked me, what did you watch when you were 6? And I was like, House MD, Criminal Minds. Doesn't sound really, great in that aspect. But I love, researching clues, and I love finding clues and like discovering these things, and House MD is a perfect TV show for that. But I rewatched it once again now, and of course House is not an objectivist, so let's not think about that. But House has a lot of episodes where you can, if you're like me, see like what philosophy does he hold and how does he act and how does he react. And if you watch TV shows like that, it's quite interesting actually. You can see like, oh, this sounds really similar to like what I study, or like, oh, this guy like totally Nietzsche and like stuff like that. And actually TOS, so the Objective Standard Institute, has a great article on this, like Dr. House and Mr. Jekyll. So I'm going to leave a QR code if anybody wants to read that article. It's from 2006, but it's a really amazing article, so I really recommend that. And what about Dr. House? I'm not going to tell you about the whole TV show. I'm not going to spoil the plot. I don't like people spoiling things to me. But I'm going to tell you about one episode of Dr. House that I recently watched. So it's season 7, episode 12, if anybody wants to rewatch that episode. And it's called Selfish. So the episode is called Selfish, quite appropriate, isn't it? And in that episode, as you can see, this actress, I think she's a really famous actress. She gets into the hospital because she just collapsed during her skateboarding. So she skateboarded, her brother was there, her brother is in a wheelchair, and she just collapsed. So Dr. House, if you didn't watch the TV show, he specialized in doing differentials, so meaning he will only take a case if nobody else can solve it. So he did that. So he took her case because nobody could find a solution to this case. Nobody can figure out, oh, why she's dying, why is this, what's happening. Basically, she comes into the ER, her brother is there in the wheelchair, and people ask her questions like, okay, like, why are you, skateboarding and stuff like that? And she says, well, I'm skateboarding because my brother can't. Okay. Because, as I said, he's in a wheelchair, right? And then what happened is that she just kept getting worse. So she just couldn't get better. Like, they couldn't find the cure, they couldn't find the medicine, they couldn't find anything, actually. And towards the end of the episode, and I'm spoiling just this episode, sorry for that. Towards the end of the episode, we actually discovered that the reason why they couldn't cure her was because she actually hid her symptoms for a year. And she did that because she said, oh, well, my brother is sicker than me. My brother is in a wheelchair, he's sicker than me, and my life is not that important. Like, my sickness is not important because, my symptoms are not as worse as his are. So she hid her symptoms because she said, oh, well, I'm not important, my brother is, and if I'm sicker, then nothing. And at the end, when she said that, she was cured, of course, and that's where also one of the quotes from House comes, and that is, you were right after all. If everyone were more selfish, the world would be a better place. So why I'm mentioning this right now, of course, as I said, House is not an objectivist, so go to TOS to find out why, or watch the TV show yourself. But why I'm mentioning this is because in jungle school, you also learn about selfishness, and you learn about rational self-interest. And I could have based my talk just on that, and let's talk about rational self-interest. But how I view it and how I'm going to present it is going to be true things, because it is implied and it is something that all of us should pursue as a value. And being selfish is actually the most important thing that people, you know, as you already know probably, because if you ever read Virtue of Selfishness and people said, oh, it's a virtue being selfish, you know, that doesn't, you know, it didn't always sound great to people outside of the movement, the people who don't know about objectivism. But what we're going to do today is I'm going to ask you, what do you want to do? So that is one of the questions if you want to build your story as well. So what does this mean? What do you want to do? Like, does it mean like what do you want to do when you go after this talk and like do you want to have a drink? No, it does not mean that. Ask yourself, what do you want to do really? And are the things that you already do, you know, connected to the person that you want to be? Are they? Because sometimes what we think is that, oh, you know, we envision this, you know, we envision and see this future of ourselves that we want, and it stays in our head, and that's it. I already mentioned this. That's it, and it's there. But if you ask yourself, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to pursue? You can actually see, okay, so I want to be this, and I want to be that. And we'll get to the how, but it's important for you to define what do you value? What do you see yourself doing? Because nobody's going to do it for you. Why am I mentioning this? Well, you know, one of you can become a doctor, right? And I know a lot of architects, really good architects here. I know a lot of, you know, great bosses and great people out there. And all of you have a certain thing that you want to pursue, a certain thing where you want to be and where you know, want to get. But is that something that you really want, like as an individual? Like, is it something that you said to yourself, you used your reason, you used your ability to think and said, okay, I want to pursue this and I want to pursue that? Because maybe you saw your friend and your friend went to law school, became a doctor, and you said, oh, well, you know, she's successful and she's out there and like, you know, maybe I want to be like her and like, that's why I want to pursue law school or become a doctor. Because you have to know you have to know what are you doing and why are you doing that. Like, what are you doing, what you're right now doing in order to succeed? So for example, I'll give you a really good example. So Marco here, as you may have met Marco, he was one of the Marcos that announced me. He wants to pursue law, right? And he wants to be a lawyer. And just before this talk, he managed to get himself into a master's degree. So let's give a big applause for that. Yeah, I meant the master's program, but Marco knows what I mean. So he wants to pursue law, and he's doing things, he's being productive, he's using his reason to find out, okay, what do I need to do to get there? What I really need to pursue, what I need to really build on to get there, and he did it. I mean, it's one of the steps that he made him, you know, really happy. I know before this, and he came up to me and said like, yeah, I got in the master's program, and I shared the joy with him. But is that it? Is he just going to say like, oh yeah, I got my master's degree and that's the master's program and that's it? No, he won't, because he knows that there are a lot of steps for him to cover before he gets, you know, to be a lawyer, and then later on to get, you know, to the, let's say, ultimate moral purpose that is, you know, as well happiness, right? So, value. So you heard probably this one way or another, and we had speakers yesterday also talk about objectivist ethics and value. That value is that which one it acts to gain and or keep. So I want to make a differentiation here. So what kind of one? You heard about the three main cardinal values of objectivism, as you probably did. So that is reason, self-esteem, and of course purpose. We're going to talk about that, but the most important thing is those are the three cardinal values in objectivism. But things that you value, like things that you and each and every one of you values, they're not going to be the same. As we heard, he's here for work, he's here to organize a conference and make things go great. So it's not the same, but it doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean that it's bad that they don't have the same things. If the things that they want will lead them to the goal, to the moral purpose, that's okay. But it's important that they got there themselves. They thought to themselves, okay, I really want this, and I use my reason, I use my ability to think, to actually see what I'm good at, and what can I pursue, where can I go, and then I did it. Because that sounds so lovely, doesn't it? When you do what you want to do, and you have your own life, and you can actually do and pursue whatever you want. Because you can, and you are able to. You just have to actually do something about it. So next question that if you want to write, you can write it down, is what for? So you want to know, what are you doing this for? So I mentioned the moral purpose, I mentioned happiness, I mentioned that. But is it just enough that I said, hey, happiness, and you heard all happiness, and that's it, and hey, yeah, now I'm happy? No, it's not enough. You have to know, what are you doing things for? So for example, Marco is doing an exam because he wants to become a lawyer, and he has to do these and these steps because of that. But if you're doing something that you're not sure why you're doing it? Maybe somebody told you, oh, please do this, but like, you're not sure, like, oh, but what's the purpose of it? Like, what is this for? Is this for my life, or is this for your life, or like, what is this for? What happens then? Like, do you just say, like, yeah, sure, I'll do it, or do you ask yourself, okay, why am I doing this? Like, what for? Because you have to know the answers to these questions if you really want to come to your future self, and not just envision it, like really, really craft it and get there. So this is what I mentioned, the 3 cardinal values. So you already studied this, so 3 cardinal values: reason, purpose, and self-esteem. Those correspond to 3 virtues as well. And as you know, I won't mention it a lot because I know that you have learned about it, but these are the 3 virtues here. And why are they important, actually? So once you determine what you value and what you really want, with this really specific, so like concrete things, you also want to think like, okay, so am I being rational about this decision? Like, am I, how am I putting this goal together? How am I aligning these goals, actually? And productiveness is like the main thing that will lead you to happiness, because productive work is the center, right? The center of everything. But it's okay if you say, like, one day you're lazy and you say, oh, I'm not feeling really productive, and, I don't want to do anything, or I don't want to, I just want to sit down in bed and that's it. That can also happen, and that can happen to, even me, that I'm now talking about this and how to actually, be and come to your future version. It can happen. But what's important, and why objectivist ethics matters so much in this sense, is because if you just think about it, if you use your reason, if you look at these, if you align them, and I'll show you how, you can actually get so much out of it. You can actually get so much value from, reading Ayn Rand and actually pursuing, just finding out more on how to be the best version of yourself. Because we have this conference that's called with the slogan "Future Looks Bright," right? And we can talk about flourishing, and OSI has Level Up as well. But everything about objectivism is actually made for you to flourish. And like, what does that mean? That means that every single thing we talk about, so every single concept or every single principle and every single lecture is not made just for you to listen and hear about it and then, okay, goodbye. Well, everything is made so you can actually take these things and create your life. Create your life and create, your future self. Where? I mean, here, in the conference hall, in the bar, where? So first, where do you need improvement? So what does that mean? I can ask that in any, kind of aspect, in any kind of sense. So where currently, when you think about it, when you think about the things that you value, the things that you want to pursue, where can you, do more? Where can you actually come and say, like, okay, I'm being rational about this, and like, I'm pursuing this, and I'm doing this or that, and so on, and you can just talk about it. You can actually find the points in your life where you actually need improvement. And it's all over social media as well. I mean, you can hear a lot about, hey, you can improve in this field, and you can improve in this field, and so on. But you have to locate actually the where. Maybe somewhere in your life, you don't have arranged values. Maybe you think that you value something, but you're actually not. So what does that actually mean? That means that, for example, you say you want to pursue, like, you want to be more free, or you want to be, let's say, more rational, or you want to be more independent, or you want to do the doctor studies or whatever you want. And you say that, And you think, okay, this is what I value. I said it, so it must be true, right? I said it, so this is what it's going to be. But then, when you look at it, you're not really acting on it. Like, you're not really doing anything to get you into that direction to be the person that you want to be. Like, you say, oh, I hold this value dear, but then when you actually look at it and look at your day, that's not true. And we just can fool ourselves sometimes with saying, oh, I want to be, this person that plays chess, let's say, and I'm playing chess, and hello, and so on, but I'm not actually doing anything about it. I'm just saying, hey, I'm better at chess, but I'm not really. Or, hey, I'm going to be better, but I'm not taking any actions towards it. And that can happen as well. That's not something that is, that will skip all objectivists, I guess. That is something that happens to all of us. But what's important is that you find out what in your life is the place where you can improve. But where do you start? Oh, so many things, right? So many things are in one's life. Like, you have so many areas. You have your career, for example, you have your health, you have your studies, you have your love life. So, like, where do you start? Like, where do I go from here? Well, it depends on you. I can't give you all the answers. I can give you things that will help you get to your answers. But what I can say is that you start where you actually use your mind to determine what you value. So that's where you start. Like, you determine, like, okay, I value this, I value that, I want to pursue this, I want to pursue that. That's where you start, actually. But what about when do you start? Like, do I start right now? Like, do I start tomorrow? Or should I have started yesterday, right? Well, that's a really contextual question as well. And I want to say one thing. You have all already started. So if you want me to ask every single one of you, did you come here to learn about objectivism? I think that I would get the answer yes. Well, I hope I will get the answer yes. But all of you have already started one way or another. So that is the answer to when. You have, but it's also really contextual. And what does this mean? That means that it also depends when do you plan to actually put some focus on something? Like, when do you plan to do that? Because maybe you're already doing it. Maybe tomorrow you will. I know one guy here, I'm not sure if he's here, he had to leave one session to go and finish his master's dissertation and actually graduate. Here he is. Let's give applause for that, because that is amazing as well. So, when is something that it's something we should think about. It's something that we should think about, and we should actually give our mind and give our mind space to actually focus and decide, when are we going to start? I would say now. I would say, right now. But it all is really dependent on you, and nobody can tell you otherwise. So that is for when. But there is one more point about this, and that is the time. When I talk about these values and I talk about what each and every one of you wants, I talk about many different things. But it really depends how much time you devote to a certain activity or a certain thing. You say you value your job, but you spend only 1 hour working a day. You say you value your studies, but you spend only 15 minutes studying per day. What about that? What about the time you devote to things? Measure your time. Have your day, have this day, go to sleep, but before you do, say to yourself, how much time did I devote to this, the thing that I say that I value? How much time did I do for this? How about that? And I say I value all these things. I say I'm trying to be great at all these things, but I don't do anything about it. And what do I do then? What do you do then? What do you do when you see a paper that says, hey, I want to be a doctor, but I'm not putting anything to it? What do you do then? Do you start crying? No, you don't. You use this. You use everything that you learn and everything about objectivism and everything about ethics and things that I'm talking about right now to actually flourish and to actually continue pursuing those things. Because even if you find out that, hey, I'm not really, doing the things that I'm said that I'll be doing. That is fine as long as you realize that. If you use your reason to realize that and if you fix it. So yeah, when is contextual. Because maybe you will realize tomorrow that you're not really doing something that you said that you will do. but you realize that tomorrow, and you will try to fix it from then. How? Oh, well, how do you do all of this? Well, I mentioned one thing about measuring time, but how do you know where actually to devote it? Like, you know, I can say like, yeah, if you don't know this, you don't, but if you do, you do, and stuff like that. But that's where value hierarchy comes to mind, and you probably all heard about it. Like how to arrange your values, and how to actually pursue those values based on the arrangement that you made. And this is highly individualistic. What does this mean? I mean, objectivism is made, and as you all know, like it's a philosophy for living on earth, right? It's a philosophy for flourishing. It's not something that I will just throw on you and say like, hey, if you do this, no. You can see all these amazing speakers as well, and a lot of people among you that have already put so much work into this. They already know so much about this, and they have started, like maybe like a few years ago, maybe they started like me like a few years ago as well, maybe they started 10 years ago. But the point about this is that they all are doing it. They're pursuing it. And you weren't born being an objectivist, right? You weren't born and like had somebody put you in ejection and say like, oh, now you're an objectivist. No, you have to learn about it. And you all made a really big step into doing that. But now it's the time to actually, act on it. As I said, you can envision it as much as you want. You can think about it as much as you want. You can share it with your friends and say, like, I want to do this project. We did an icebreaker today, right? Accountability buddy. And you can say as much as you want, like, I want to do this and I want to do that, but you actually have to act. Actually have to put the work into doing that. A few years ago, I joined the jungle school, and I was sitting 3 years ago in the same place where you sat, and 4 years ago, and 2 years ago. And then I put the work in to get here, and I'm not in a perfect place. I'm not I don't know what kind of objectivist, like I don't know everything, of course. There's so many things for me to learn and to educate myself about, but I put the work into that because that is what I value, and that is what I want to do. And 7 years ago, I didn't know anything about this, and I was really lost. I was lost, didn't have people that were like-minded people that I can share my everyday with, that I can share this conference with, where I can share my learning with. But now I do. And I didn't get there by manifestation or by just imagining it and like dreaming about it. I get there because I tried every day to recognize what are the things that I value? What are the things that I actually do? And will that bring me to where I want to be? So how? How do you do it? Well, first of all, how do you know what you value? Well, I mentioned it millions of times, but the only person that can know that is you. You can say that your friend can make you a list of things that you value, and maybe somebody can, maybe you know somebody that much, but nobody can get inside your head and say, hey, like I know what you value, like I know exactly the things that you say that you value and that you want and so on. Nobody can do that for you. But what you can do is think about what actually you love doing and what things are you using your mind for. Are you using your mind to, I don't know, discover a cure for cancer or something like that? Or are you using your mind to work in a non-profit organization, make the best conference or stuff like that? You have to figure that out. And value hierarchy is really the best place to do that because I'm really so passionate about this just because it is something that really helped me a lot. As you know, you can set goals, and goal setting is something that is recommended everywhere. Like on social media, go set your goals and like have like, I will do this today and I will have that today and I will want to be, I don't know, something in 5 years. But that's not enough. Set your goals. That is a great head start. That is a great start, great beginning. But what you need to do is write those goals down. Write what you're doing right now. Like, what are you doing right now about these goals? That's why I say build a story. Create a story for yourself. Create a story for your future self. Then think about it. Okay, I say that I want this a lot, but I don't really do anything about it. Okay, arrange it. Rearrange it. You can edit it. They're your goals, nobody else's. Like, nobody's going to do them for you. Nobody's going to use them. Nobody's going to do anything about it. You are. That's for goal setting. But goal setting is something that you can not use only for yourself. You use it also in many organizations, and you use it when you go work somewhere, volunteer somewhere, do something. But these values and the things that I'm talking about and what you value, those things can be used for anything. And those things should be used for anything. Because without values, as Ayn Rand and like Esther told us yesterday as well, like if we were immortal and if we just lived the whole life not knowing that we would die, we'd probably not have values. But we will die, and we want to have that life fulfilled, and we want to have that life, doing what you want and what you can do. There are a lot of trends on social media as well that say like, oh, hey, well, what if you come to like 60 years old and, you're sad and like you're not fulfilled? And those are really sad reels, they're not really passionate, they're not really some things that are going to motivate you to do something. They're going to make you also feel a bit sad, right? You're going to see that and say, oh, what if I'm doing that right now? What if I'm right now doing the things that I don't want to do later? And then you go maybe into spiraling on overthinking. Martin here wrote a really great article on overthinking that I recommend for you to read. And what did you do then? Maybe you scroll some more on social media. Maybe you see that and feel sad. But think about it differently. Think about it. Like, really. Is anybody stopping you? Because who's going to stop us is also, Ayn Rand's favorite, ours favorite. I don't think that, I think that everybody loves that. But really, who's going to stop you? Like, really, you. Like you, Harrison, you, Anastasia, and you, Tamrico, and you, Katerina, and you, Marco, and every single one of you know all of your names. Who's going to stop you? Well, nobody. But who's going to make you do something for yourself? Nobody can do that too. You have to do it yourself. But that is the brilliance of it. Nobody can live your life for you. And you can't live your life for anybody else, right? You have only one life. That's what, everybody says. But that's such a brilliant thing to have a life, right? To have a life where you can choose, where you can decide, you can fight. Because I see a lot of Georgians in here. I know what they do and fight for freedom in their countries as well. And all of you are doing that already. You just have to figure out in what direction you will go, how you will set your goals, and what you value. Why? You might have heard that and saw that I rearranged the questions a bit, but you also might have noticed that I have also put a lot of things and put a lot of thought into answering this question. Why? Because why is answered through all of this? Why is answered yesterday in Esther Nova's lecture? Why do we need values? She answered that. And I answered the why through all of this. Why is this important? Well, it's important because without this, each and every single one of you will be rather second handlers. And I know somebody's going to talk about that tomorrow. It's important because every single one of you has your life. And really, nobody can live it for you. Why? Why do we do this? Like, why do we study about these ideas? We don't study it just because, maybe we want to share with a friend, or because, oh, this sounds interesting. I saw objectivism and I thought, or hey, I saw applications for a conference and like, I want to go to Budapest. Yeah, sure, that can be some things that you also want to do and like something that you also value. But we promote objectivism and we learn about objectivism because it is a philosophy that will help you flourish. But not only if you learn it, not only if you hear about it. You can go after this conference home and say, hey, I spent a really nice, fun time in Budapest. I had 5 days learning about Future Looks Bright and about ethics and AI and stuff like that. You can go home and nothing. You have a choice. You always have a choice. It's on every single one of you. But what you can also do is apply these things. Apply what you learn here. Go home, read about it, think about it, use your reason, challenge these ideas. I hear a lot of like, you should be open-minded. No. You should be active-minded. You should search for these ideas. You should challenge these ideas. You should make sure that these ideas are something that you understand completely. Because you can't pursue it if you don't understand it. You can hear, oh, values are great and values, okay, and then like what? Like what happens? Like somebody all of a sudden gives you like, hey, you learned about it. No, that's not going to happen. What can happen is you hear an idea and you pursue it. Or what can happen is that you hear something and you challenge it in your mind. You say, okay, do I agree with this? Do I agree with what I'm saying? Do I agree with her? Do I agree with this, with that? If you do, great. I mean, really great. But if you don't, come on. Ask why. Like, okay, why do I not get this? Like, why do I say I want this, but I actually don't? Because, as I said, nobody's going to really do it for you. So the name of this talk is actually Build Your Future Self. So you can meet it in your head, you can envision it, but you have to build it. You have to build it. In 10 years, you'll see yourself there. You maybe see an old picture of you attending this conference. You'll see your smiley faces. Maybe you'll have less wrinkles than today or more wrinkles than today. And you're going to be like, oh yeah, here I am. I remember this. Like I was here sitting, talking, listening about meeting your future self. And wait, what did I envision then? Did I envision what I, live in here now? Like, did I envision my future? Or did I just think about something that, well, it's not going to happen? Build your future self. Build it. Explore it. It's okay if you change the things that you value. What does that mean? That means that it's okay that if you pursued something for so long and then realized, oh, wait, I pursued this because my mom told me to pursue it. Or I pursued this because it was my parents' wish. And that can happen. That can really happen. Especially, I know I come from, a really religious family, and I know that I had values that I really didn't understand what they mean. Like, I valued, a lot of things that I'm like now, okay, I shouldn't have done this, but I didn't know back then. I'm not regretting that. I'm not saying, okay, I should feel guilty for, not being an objectivist my whole life or something like that. Of course not. But I managed to challenge these ideas, those ideas, religious ideas. I managed to get out of them. And maybe, maybe I regret just not starting earlier. That's the only thing that maybe I can say that I regret. But for you, for all of you, you're here for a reason. Think about what that reason is. Think about why really you're sitting on those cozy chairs, why somebody's drinking water over there and sipping water. Think about your actions. Think about whether your actions really resemble your values. And write them down. Write every single one of them down. Build. I have a really funny story with my boyfriend. If you know the TV show Bob the Builder, I don't know if any of you watched that. I didn't know how to say it in English, so I said Bob the construction worker. Same thing, I guess. But Bob the Builder has, not inspired this talk and not sponsored this talk. But that has something that has remained in me, and I was thinking, okay, I'm going to build. I'm going to build my life. I'm not going to be sad about my future self, even if I'm currently not maybe doing something that, I want. But I will work on it. I will say to myself at the end of the day, okay, Aleksandra, okay, Alex, whatever I call myself. I'll say to myself, you're okay, and you're going to do this and this and this. You say to yourself, you value this, but think about it, Alex. Really put your mind to it. Use your reason, because you all have that. And at the end of the day, maybe I didn't build my future self yet, at least not the one that I envisioned. But at least I know that I'm getting one step closer to it. So build. Build and build. Thank you. This is my LinkedIn profile, by the way, so if anybody wants to share some future projects or something that you have, or maybe even share your story with me. Although I'm not, as I said, perfect, I'm just trying to build myself. You can share some things with me, and maybe we can go through things together, and maybe, I can be there of help, I guess. But at the end, you all have to do it alone. So I guess now is our questions.
Thank you very much. It was a very interesting talk, particularly the bit that I found very interesting about hierarchy of values. Can you sort of explain a bit more what that is and how it kind of builds from a central purpose? Because that's something I certainly struggle with sometimes, defining that central purpose.
Okay, so I mentioned happiness, right? I mentioned that, and I mentioned that is the highest moral purpose. But value hierarchies are some things that are quite individualistic and are things that are really dependent on each and every single individual here. So you might pursue, and I know Craig Biddle wrote a really good article on this, and like he also posed and mentioned that there are like abstract values and concrete values. So concrete would be in this context like your work, your life, in the sense of your work, health, career. So what does building a hierarchy of value mean is actually that you want to see what do you value and how actually you structure that throughout your life and throughout your day. So for example, you have an exam tomorrow and your friend invites you for a drink somewhere. And you think, okay, so is this is this a dilemma really for me? Or like, do I know that I value my career and my future work more than having a drink with my friend? Because you have to know these things. Maybe there will be a contextual situation. So for example, maybe your friend will have some things like, let's say like she's having some real trouble that is concerning you or regarding you in that sense. But even then, you have to think, okay, so if I'm pursuing my own rational self-interest, and if this exam is the only one I can take, and this is my shot of my future, you will know what you're going to pursue, and that's where value hierarchy helps, because you can actually put those things, the concrete ones, for yourself on a list, maybe on a paper. You'll use a paper or a document. Just arrange these things. Arrange how you think that you value things, and arrange how you would like them to be arranged. Like maybe your health will be first, but maybe some of you don't like volleyball, let's say, or like fitness. Maybe you prefer being healthy, but much more would like to devote your free time on fitness. You would much more like to devote it on chess, let's say, or like something else that means to you. So we use that and put it in a paper and see, okay, so this is how I devote my time now, this is how I arrange my values now, and this is how I want them to be. You can also use it for abstract values. So I know that Thomas has mentioned yesterday in his talk, he's mentioned some of the values. He's mentioned curiosity and freedom. He's mentioned independence. Well, are you trying to be curious? And like, what about those values? Like, what about those abstract ones? Because those are things we're pursuing as well, and all of us have it. Some of us, from Students for Liberty, right? And one of the things that you always hear is like, oh, we want more freedom, and we want more freedom, and like getting freedom out there. So are you really trying to do that and like, trying to pursue that? Arrange that. Arrange it, rearrange it, think about it. Just use a reason to actually give focus to something and see how you build on from there.
First of all, thank you for this kind of energetic presentation. You're a really great speaker. So, as you mentioned, we have to set goals. Yes, we can force ourselves to set the goals. But after taking any action, between setting goals and taking actions, there is one small gap when we sometimes feel ourselves frustrated. Sometimes we need some rest. Sometimes we think, what for? So what? And so on, endless. Sometimes hopeless. Sometimes political situation is not good in our country, so we think that everything we should left and go outside somewhere. So we have endless reasons why we should stop. It would be very nice to share your personal experience. How do you encourage yourself to move forward and still take action to achieve your goals? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, my personal experience. Yeah, I know that can happen, and I saw a lot of that as well. That happening to people and like feeling hopeless in that sense. But First, I can give you like the details, but you already learned that, you should use your reason to think whether that is something that, is worth fighting for. And if it is possible, and you can see it happening, maybe not in the immediate time, that is something you should still pursue. But I can also give you some more practical things on how I get myself out of the slope, I guess, and how I get myself out of that. Well, what I would say is that, as I said, I'm 23 years old, so I think that I'm almost as young as most of you here, and I know that that is something that, connects me with you in that sense. And I know that I have my hard periods where I also think, oh, does this like really matter? And like, does this, should I really care about this? And that is something that can, be also called a spiral, right? And we can think like, okay, so I go from one thought to another, and then like to another, and then I realize like, okay, there are things that can stop me. And then I wait. I tell myself, okay, so something happened, or something is happening. I can't really do anything about the situation now. And I let myself cry, or let myself just, feel this, what I feel, but then I stop. And for what reason do I stop? I stop because it is not something that will lead you to anywhere, and that's how I think. It will not lead me to anywhere. It will not lead me to anywhere to think like, oh, okay, this is going to end bad, and this is going to end bad, and sometimes, like it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. Like that will not lead me to anywhere. What I do is like, I try to actually also distract my mind from the things that I feel at the moment. So I do something that is like, for example, one of the things that I value is reading Stephen King, let's say. So that is my little passion, like examining Stephen King and his philosophy and stuff like that. So I distract myself with those things. And that is okay, but as long as you don't leave it as a distraction, you don't leave it as like, hey, I had this thought in my mind and I went into a really bad mood or a really bad spiral, and then I just, left it on that. No, you have to really think about, okay, why is this? Like, why did I feel like this? Okay, after that, why did I, what led me to come to this like level? Like, what led me to really think about it in a negative way? And then think, okay, so does this really mean that I cannot do it anymore? Like, cannot, pursue freedom in your country because it's tough right now? Or something like that? No. Because roadblocks and things like that, challenges happen every time. That's why it's important to actually have values and know your values. Because you will know that nobody can stop you from doing what you want. It won't come easily. It won't happen overnight. It won't happen during the day. But it will happen if you build on it. And if you get yourself out of that state, and just get yourself and be as productive as you can, as rational as you can, and know your values, because nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can steal them and get them out of there. They're yours. They're just yours. Okay, any more questions? Georgia?
Yeah, hi, Aleksandra. So, since we're in this topic, I'd like to ask you, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who perhaps has ADHD, or at least is very kind of in a mind frame that's kind of similar to that, where you want to do so many things and you're interested in so many things that it can be hard to kind of focus and put in, a steady stream of work into one thing. What would you say to people who struggle with that?
Okay, I'm laughing because I actually have someone I live with that has ADHD. I'll live here really soon, I guess. But yeah, so I can't give like proper advice in that aspect because I never experienced that. I know some things about it, but I would need to research much more in order to give like proper things and give it from my standpoint and in the standpoint of how I understand it. So of course, like, everybody has different type of ADHD, I guess, and everybody will have like a different thing that will resemble in that sense. For example, somebody will work like a lot or have like a lot of tasks that they need to do and things like that. But I think that even people who don't have it can have that issue. So, for example, having a lot of things that you need to do because you have a lot of things that you value and or things that you want and stuff like that. So what I do then is I prioritize. So yeah, you want to do millions of things, and sometimes you want to do millions of things in one day, sometimes you want to do a million things in your life. And that can happen, and that is normal. But what is most important here is that you prioritize, okay, so what can I do right now? How can I fix this? How can I do this? And take it from there. And if you're having an ADHD, I can't say really like how can you, sort yourself, because I don't have it, I don't know much about it, I'm not, trained in it. But I'm saying it from a perspective of a person that also has, sometimes I want to do millions of things or have millions of things, or I want to like go anywhere and do anything and multitask and stuff like that. Just important that you know that what you're doing now will help you, and that what you're not doing now will actually, that what you're doing now will help you, and that the things that you're not doing are not going to set you back as well. So, of course, I mentioned timing, I mentioned when. And sometimes you want to do millions of things at the same time and, have all this sorted out in a night. Like, oh, I want to be, healthy and happy and everything tomorrow. And that would be great if you could do that, but we cannot, unfortunately. So prioritizing and making sure that you understand why you want to do all of these things and devote your time to how you're going to do it and when are you going to start. But it is actually, the most crucial thing is actually that you want to know why you want to do all these millions of things, and you want to know whether they align with your values. Yeah. I think that's it, right? Okay, thank you.